On today's episode of the Mission Ready Body, we're going to be taking a look at something I call the longevity mindset shift. But first, please don't forget to check out the description below for 15% off the brand 10,000, which is an activewear company. They also have discounts for veterans, so check them out. They have been nice enough to give me a code for 15% off to share with you all. So I hope you all take advantage of it. I love their clothes, it's amazing. So today for the longevity mindset shift, what am I talking about? What I'm talking about is, in short, this next situation, this next scenario. You're sitting in the clinic behind my desk and walk somebody for evaluation. They sit down, they're let's say former Army, and they're like, man, my shoulder really hurts. I ask them, all right, what does it hurt with? Reaching overhead, reaching out to the side, screwing in a light bulb, driving, and push-ups. I'm like, oh, well, what are you doing push-ups? Is that part of your fitness routine, or is that something you kind of sprinkle in once in a while? And the guy goes, no. See, I'm still trying to do the max amount of push-ups that I can every couple of weeks just to prove that I still got it. And I usually ask them, okay, that's kind of cool, but are you training for anything? Are you training for CrossFit, High Rocks? Are you just wanting to be the strongest dad in the block? And they go, no, it's just kind of the thing that I've always done. I've always trained this way, and I haven't really stopped training this way since I got out. And what I try to do in those situations is remind people that you're supposed to be training your body for an objective. You're not supposed to just be going through the motions of something that ended years ago. And I guess you could say that's a really deep philosophical principle for a bunch of things, but the truth is, your body needs to be oriented towards a goal. Your fitness routine needs to be oriented towards a goal. When you sit down with a personal trainer, the first question they're going to ask you is, so what are your goals? Is it to get stronger? Is it to look a certain way? Is it to be able to do some sort of routine that you haven't been able to do before? Are you wanting to be able to do a chin-up for the first time? All of these are questions that a personal trainer asks, and in truth, a physical therapist asks, because we want to know what the goals of the person that is sitting in front of us are. Otherwise, I can go through and try and help you, but if you don't tell me what you want out of life, I can't help you get there. And so a lot of the times it comes down to you sitting there and asking yourself, before you even go and see a physical therapist or a personal trainer, what do I want out of life? And in the sense of physical therapy, especially in the context of this podcast, the question is, what are you training for? Because if the answer is to live a long, healthy, pain-free life, then we're going to have to take a completely different approach. And we're going to have a completely different PT test in order to measure our progress. And that is what we are going to focus on today. Over the last 3 episodes, we've talked a lot about the post-service body reckoning, why military fitness fails in civilian life, and how to unpack your deployment body. Today, we're going to reframe everything. We're going to talk about training for the mission that actually matters, the next 40, 50, and even 60 years of your life. And we're going to contrast the military mission versus the longevity mission. In the military, the mission was clear. Be operationally ready, pass your PT test, keep up on the ruck marches, be capable of performing your job under extreme conditions, and the timeline? Well, your 20s, your 30s, and maybe into your 40s if you stayed in long enough. That mission required a specific type of fitness, performance fitness, that is speed, power, and endurance at a level that allows you to operate in high-stress, physically demanding environments. Or if you're like the rest of the analysts, twice a year when you're passing that, air quotes, high-stress environmental test, or that ended up becoming the ACFT. But now that we're out, the mission has changed. Your new mission is longevity fitness, not just living longer, but living well, maintaining independence, staying active, being pain-free, playing with your grandkids, and traveling the world without limitation. It's about enjoying life well into your 60s, 70s, and 80s. Here's the critical point. Performance fitness and longevity fitness require different approaches. The metrics that we used to define success in the military, like our PT score, our 2 mile run time, our max bench press, max deadlift, all that stuff, those do not predict longevity. And in fact, chasing those things can actively work against your long term health. So the question then becomes very easily, what does predict longevity? And let me tell you what the research says because I think it's going to surprise you. The top three predictors of longevity are your VO2 max, your grip strength, and your leg strength. Not your body fat percentage, not whether or not you have six-pack abs, not how fast you can run a mile, and not how much you can bench press. Research shows the difference in mortality between someone with low cardiorespiratory fitness or cardiovascular fitness and someone with elite fitness is fivefold over a decade. Fivefold over a decade. That's massive. And here's what's wild. Your VO2 max and your grip strength are stronger predictors of how long you'll live than whether you smoke, your family history of disease, or even if you have high blood pressure. So let that sink in for a second. Your fitness level matters more for longevity than most of the things we typically and traditionally worry about. Notice what is not on that list that comes from the Army. For example, my background, max effort sprints, crushing that PT test, or looking like a bodybuilder or a Greek god. So here's the shift that we need to make. We have to stop training to pass the ACFT or the push-ups, sit-ups, 2 mile run. And we have to start training to build a resilient, capable body able to withstand life for the next 50 years. We have to stop chasing performance metrics that don't actually serve our interests of long-term health. And we have to start tracking the things that will actually help us predict how well we'll age. So we're going to stop right now by measuring success by extremes. And we're going to start measuring it by consistency, functionality, and longevity. It is not about getting weaker. It is not about lowering standards. It is about redirecting our efforts towards something that matters for our new mission set. We've got the discipline, we've got the work ethic, now we get to apply it to the right mission set. So let's take a deep dive into the first thing that we talked about, the VO2 max. What is it? It's the maximum amount of oxygen your body can use during intense exercise. It's a measure of how efficiently your cardiovascular system, that is your heart, your lungs, and the blood vessels, can deliver oxygen to your muscles and how efficiently your muscles can use that oxygen. In simple terms, the higher your VO2 max, the better your engine runs. Your engine, of course, being all those things that I listed. Now, why does it matter for longevity? A higher VO2 max is strongly linked to reduced risk of chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, some cancers, and it lowers the risk of early premature death. When you compare someone with a low fitness to someone with elite fitness, there is a 5-fold difference in mortality risk over 10 years. And to put that in perspective, because let's try and break it down simple, right? What's the bottom line up front? Coronary artery disease increases mortality by about 30%. Diabetes increases it by about 40%. And end-stage renal disease by 180. But the difference between low and above average cardiorespiratory fitness or cardiovascular fitness is the equivalent to the impact of end-stage renal disease. So again, keep in mind end-stage renal disease increases mortality by 180%. Going from low to above average cardiovascular fitness is the same effect there. It's like that's the comparison that I came up with for you. By improving your cardiovascular fitness from low to above average has the same impact as avoiding kidney failure. That's how powerful this metric is. Now, how does your VO2 max decline? It declines naturally with age at a rate of approximately 1% per year after the age of 30, and it happens because of physiological changes, decreased cardiac output, reduced muscle mass, and lower lung function. Okay, enough with the nerd stuff. What's really going on? You're getting older and your body's adapting to you not doing anything. And there are some changes over time that your body just will naturally make as you get older unless you give it a stimulus to stop. This decline is not inevitable at that rate. With regular exercise, we can significantly slow this process. We're going to war with time. If we do nothing by the age of 60, our VO2 max could be 30% lower than when we were at 30, age 30. That means you're going to be gasping for air going upstairs, getting winded carrying groceries, and struggling to keep up with even basic activities with your grandkids. But if you train smart, you can maintain between 80 and 90% of your VO2 max well into your 60s and beyond. And that's the difference between feeling old and feeling capable. The gold standard for this test, how you measure it, is you run or bike at increasing intensity while breathing into a mask that measures your oxygen consumption. It's accurate, it's expensive, and it's not accessible to the vast majority of people. But you don't need a lab in order to measure it. And here are some practical ways that you can estimate it. This is not perfect, this is an estimation. Option number 1 is the Cooper 12-minute run test. You run as far as you can in 12 minutes and use this formula, which you will find in the link description below. But for those of you who are busy driving, it is 35.97 times the distance covered in miles minus 11.29. That's a lot of math. I can hear you all groaning in your cars on the way to work. Option 2, the Rockport 1-mile walk test. You walk 1 mile as fast as you can, you measure your time and your heart rate at the end, and you use another formula. Oh God, I'm so sorry. This is so much math. I'm not going to say this. You can find it all in the description in the comments. Description in the video. The big takeaway here is the Cooper 12-minute run test is pretty good for healthy individuals. The Rockport 1-mile walk test is good for older individuals or those who can't run. The last option, which is my favorite option, is the smartwatch. You put the smartwatch on and you do what it tells you to do. You can check your VO2 max by running a certain distance, and it will measure your heart rate and your activity data, and it's not going to be nearly as accurate as doing the cycling or running test with the oxygen mask, but it's going to give you a fairly good approximation of where you're at. What is a good score? The VO2 max is measured in millimeters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per minute. That's a lot of words. Here's what you need to know. If you are elite, you'll be 55 and above. If you are excellent, you'll be 45 to 55. If you are good, you will be 40 to 45. If you're average, 35 to 40. If you're below average, 30 to 35. And if you're below 30, you are poor. For women, you subtract about 10% from each category. And for longevity, you might be asking, where should I fall into? You need to fall into the good and the excellent range. If you fall into elite, even better. Power to you. But in order for longevity and to have the effects of longevity, like we were talking about earlier with the comparing to kidney failure, you just need to be well above average. So how does one improve it? Well, first you need to get cleared by a medical professional to do exercise. But after that, improving VO2 max requires regular aerobic exercise. That means at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise per week or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise. Walking, running, cycling, swimming, and rowing are all fantastic. But here's what really moves the needle. High-intensity interval training, also known as HIIT. Mixing in high-intensity bursts of training significantly improves your aerobic conditioning. That doesn't mean that you need to push yourself every day to 110%, but 1 to 2 HIIT sessions per week can dramatically improve your VO2 max. Here's an example protocol for beginners. That takes about 20 minutes. You do a 5-minute warm-up. You do 8 rounds of 30 seconds of hard effort and 90 seconds of easy recovery, and a 5-minute cool down. For example, for me, this would be running. This would be sprints. I would do a 5-minute warm-up, 8 rounds of 30-second hard sprints with 90 seconds of rest in between. That's for me. Intermediate would up the dosage by about 5 minutes. So instead of 20 minutes total, you'd be looking at 25 minutes total with a 5-minute warm-up, 6 rounds of 1 minute hard effort with 2 minutes of rest in between, and then a 5 minute cool down. And then, of course, as you can imagine, with advanced, you'd be a 5 minute warm up, 5 rounds of 2 minutes of hard effort with 2 minutes of easy recovery in between with a 5 minute cool down. Hard effort means that you're breathing heavy and you can only speak in short phrases. It doesn't mean that you're gasping, almost collapsing, and barely able to move. You should not be able to hold a conversation, but you should be able to get a few short phrases out like, yeah, I'm doing okay. Yes, I can do this. Hold on a second, I need to get some water. Okay, that last one's a joke. It's way too much. But you get the idea. It should be like 2 or 3 word sentences that you should be able to get out. Combine this with 2 to 3 longer steady state cardio sessions per week where you're doing a light jog or run, and usually you'll see improvements in your VO2 max in 8 to 12 weeks. The bottom line is that your cardiovascular fitness is your longevity engine. If your engine is running poorly, everything else in your life suffers. You have to invest in it, you have to train it, you have to track it, and you have to improve it. And this is non-negotiable for long-term health. Next, grip strength. What is it? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a measure of how much force you can generate with the muscles of your hands while you grip something. Why does it matter? Research consistently shows that grip strength is one of the most reliable indicators of overall muscle health, and it is strongly linked to longevity. Why? Because grip strength is a proxy for overall muscle mass and neuromuscular function. If your grip is weak, it's a sign your entire musculoskeletal system is declining. Grip strength and VO2 max together are better predictors of mortality than common risk factors like high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, and smoking. That just goes to show how important those two things are. So think about it practically. Grip strength affects your ability to open jars, carry groceries, hold onto things, climb, and perform countless daily tasks. Weak grip means reduced independence, but more than that, it correlates with overall muscle mass, bone density, your cognitive function, recovery from illness or surgery, and risks of falls and fractures. It's a window into your entire physical health. So how do you measure it? You measure it using what's called a hand dynamometer. It's a device that you squeeze as hard as you can, and it measures your force in kilograms or pounds, and you can buy one online for $20 to $30. There's an entire testing protocol for it that I'm not going to bore you with, but effectively it goes like this. You sit, you have your arm bent at 90 degrees, and you squeeze as hard as you can for 3 to 5 seconds, 3 times each side. What's a good score? Anything above 121 pounds. I'm going to use pounds because we're in America. 121 pounds is excellent. Anything from 100 to 121 pounds is good. Between 77 and 99 pounds is average. 55 to 77 is average or below average, and poor is anything below 55. For women, excellent is anything above 77 pounds. Good is 62 to 77 pounds. Average is 44 to 62 pounds. Below average is 33 to 44 pounds. And poor is 33 pounds. If you're below average for your age and for your sex, it's time to address it. The good news is grip strength responds quickly to training. So what does a daily grip workout look like? Dead hangs is the best answer if you're able to, again, assuming you've been cleared by a medical professional to do so. Start with 10 to 20 seconds, work your way up to 60 seconds and above, doing 3 to 5 sets. Farmer's carries are actually my favorite. That's holding heavy dumbbells or kettlebells and going for a walk for 30 to 60 seconds. It's very functional. You're not just building grip, you're also building postural endurance and core stability. And I do this for, I call it 3 laps. And laps for me is usually about 30 yards one way and 30 yards back is 1 lap. Grip squeezes. Use a grip trainer or even a tennis ball. Squeeze for 5 seconds at a time and release, repeating 10 to 15 times per hand, doing 3 sets per day. And then plate pinches, which I hate, is you hold a weight plate between your fingers and your thumb, and you hold it for 20 to 30 seconds doing 5 sets per hand. Yeah, I don't like that one. I really don't like that one. I stick with my farmer carries. Compound lifts that also build grip strength. Deadlifts, pull-ups, chin-ups, rows, and kettlebell swings. All of these, however, require you to grip heavy loads. There's no benefit for doing deadlifts with just the bar. It's not going to build grip strength. like doing an actual grip or an actual deadlift with heavy weight. Pro tip: try to avoid using straps. If you're using straps all the time, you're robbing yourself of grip training. Though, if you're using straps, I'm assuming you're using them because you're going so heavy that you need them. Most people are not going out here lifting 95 pounds using grip straps. So there's a balance to that. The people that typically use grip straps are the ones that need them. So I would just argue make sure that you're using them when you really need them and not getting reliant upon them. The bottom line is that it's the easiest way to check your longevity. You don't even have to measure the VO2. You can just quickly go and check your grip strength using the hand dynamometer. In 5 to 10 minutes, a few times a week, can make a massive difference. So testing it, tracking it, and training is extremely easy, and your future self will thank you. Leg strength, the foundation of independence. So let's talk about that now. It's the most important physical capacity for maintaining your independence as you age. Why does it matter? It matters because leg strength is critical for mobility and fall prevention. Falls are a leading cause of injury and loss of independence in older adults. And strong legs reduce the risk of falls and associated complications like hip fractures. So let's talk about what leg strength would entail. Getting up from a chair without using your hands, climbing stairs without getting winded, walking long distances without fatigue, recovering from balance when you slip, trip, or get bumped into, and getting up off the floor. You lose leg strength, and that means you lose independence because you can no longer do things on your own. Additionally, higher leg strength improves recovery from illness, injuries, surgeries, making you more robust as you age. And there are a few simple tests you can do at home. The first one is what we typically use for the geriatric population, and it's called the sit-to-stand test. And it's effectively, well, there's two different variations. It's either how many you can do in 30 seconds, how many sit-to-stands you can do in 30 seconds, or the 5-time sit-to-stand test, which is how long it takes you to stand up and sit down 5 times. You can look up those values. They're different, but typically you want to aim for at least 10 repetitions within 30 seconds of standing up and sitting down without using your arms. If you cannot do 10 sit-to-stands within 30 seconds, it's a problem. It's a pretty big problem. I have 80-year-olds that can do more than that. Test 2, get up off the floor test. Much more functional for younger adults and middle-aged adults. Sit on the floor and try to get up without using your hands. If you can do this smoothly, you're elite. If you cannot, it's a problem, because that means if you fall and you broke a wrist or broke your shoulder, broke your arm, you are now a higher mortality risk. People who cannot get up off the floor without using their hands have a higher risk of death than those who can. Single leg balance. As simple as it sounds, it's standing on one leg with your eyes open on a level surface and trying to balance there for about 30 seconds. If you can't make it to 30 seconds, you are deficient in balance, and you do have to test both legs. Balance is critical for fall prevention, and it reflects your neuromuscular health, which plays a huge role in longevity. Basically, what you're testing when you're staying on single leg isn't just your neuromuscular control, but it's also the stability and strength of your proximal hip muscles, your calves, your quads, and all those things together to cooperate to provide you stability. And it's a pretty good metric too of how well you're able to walk, because all walking is single leg stands with the other leg falling forward. And if you have any sort of balance deficits, that means even with walking, you could expect to have some issues with stability. How to improve it? Leg strength training should include compound movements like squats, deadlifts, lunges. All of these build functional strength that translates into real-world activities. A beginner leg strength program, for example, ranging from 2 to 3 times a week, would include bodyweight squats, step-ups, single leg balance, glute bridges, and calf raises. All of these, you'd be looking at like 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps, just getting your body used to the motion and getting used to the body weight itself. For balance, of course, you're looking at 3 sets of 30 seconds per leg, because you're basically training to pass the test, because the test shows the bare minimum that you need in order to have a happy, healthy, long life. That's the cool thing about a lot of these tests. The tests is guides how you should train. Intermediate would be things like goblet squats, walking lunges, single leg RDLs, Bulgarian split squats, and farmer's carries. Advanced leg strength program look like back squats, front squats, deadlifts, single leg squats, box jumps, box squats, sled pushes, sled pulls, hill sprints, and all the sorts of things in between. The key principles for all the above, however, is progressive overload, gradually increasing weight reps or difficulty over time. And one thing that I always tell everybody, it's about the volume. You have to keep track of the volume. The idea is not to go ham every time, but it is to slightly increase your overall weight lifted. So if I did 100-pound squats for 3 sets of 10, you can do the math, right? So 100 pounds 10 times is 1,000 pounds. I did that 3 times, that's 3,000 pounds. My goal next week would be go up 10%, for example. And that means I would add 300 pounds. So now I'd be lifting whatever that is, 300 pounds divided by 3 sets, that's 100 divided by 10. So I'd be lifting 10 extra pounds per lift to get myself to be up 10%. You have to think about volume that way. It's not just like, okay, I lifted 100 pounds last week, I'm going to try and lift 200 pounds this week for the whole sets. No, a gradual increase is always going to be more important. That's what progressive overload is. Also, you want to focus on full range of motion, and you want to focus on balancing your single leg work. The single leg exercises are critical to balancing out the hips and to find imbalances in the muscles or neuromuscular control and resolve them to improve your stability. And then don't skip mobility either. Tight hips, either be hip flexors, adductors, abductors, hamstrings. It doesn't matter. If they're tight, they're going to start affecting things above and below. Tight muscles in the hips are going to lead to knee pain, and they are going to lead to low back pain. So doing mobility, especially for the legs, is mission critical. Your legs are your foundation, and they're going to determine whether you'll be independent at 80 or you'll be dependent on others. So invest in them now. Here are some quick bonus metrics. Beyond the big three, being VO2 max, grip strength, and leg strength, there is balance, which we talked about. There is also muscle mass, because maintaining muscle mass is critical because of something called sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle with age. It's just something that happens as we age, but we can slow it just like the VO2 max decline. It's a major contributor to disability and mortality. Muscle mass acts as a metabolic reserve that protects against age-related decline, disease, and frailty. And you can track your muscle mass with body composition tests, which are becoming much more available. Or you can simply just track your strength levels over time. If you're getting stronger, you're maintaining or building muscle. Power is another thing that you can track. It's the ability for you to generate force quickly, and it declines faster than strength as you age. Plyometric training, for example, like jumping, box jumps, medicine ball throws, hopping, are all things that can help maintain lower extremity power. It's what lets you catch yourself when you trip, when you jump out of the way of danger, or when you try to move explosively when you're needed. This is definitely something that's a training gap for a lot of people. Simple power exercises would include box jumps or medicine ball slams. Even jump roping are all things that can be falling under plyometric that are going to help with this. So adding 1 to 2 power exercises to your strength sessions 2 times per week can have a pretty significant impact on preserving your power. So now putting it all together, because we've covered a lot, let's put this into a practical framework that you can actually use. I'm going to give you a template. You're going to be able to find the template on Patreon. So you're going to have to navigate from here onto Patreon to find it. It's going to be free, but you have to go to Patreon to get it. So here is the training template, briefly. On Monday, we could focus on strength and power. Again, assuming you've been cleared by a medical professional to do exercise. You could focus on strength and power. You can do lower body strength work like squats, deadlifts, and lunges. Do some grip strength training like farmer's carries, dead hangs, and the deadlift would also fall into that. And then some power work like box jumps and or some medicine ball throws. And the duration of that entire workout will be 45 to 60 minutes. On Tuesday, you could do some steady state cardio, like a long, easy cardio session with walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, and or rowing. The goal will be between 30 to 60 minutes at a pace where you can hold a pretty decent conversation. This will help you build your aerobic base and improve VO2 max. On Wednesday, we're back to strength, but we're adding mobility. The upper body strength work. We'll do push ups, rows, presses, pull ups, even. Some grip training again. Part of that's going to be with the pull ups. Part of it could be if we're doing rows. 15 to 20 minutes of mobility work, focusing on the hips, the T spine, and the shoulders. The duration, 45 to 60 minutes. On Thursday, we're having a HIIT session. We're going to do a 5-minute warm up, 8 rounds of 30 seconds hard, 90 seconds easy, whatever that would be. If it's just jump roping, running, etc., and then have that 5-minute cool down. The duration there is 25 to 30 minutes. So if Thursday is your busy day, there you go. It's only 25, 30-minute commitment. On Friday, we're back to strength, but now we're focusing on balance as well. We can do a full body strength session, but then we can emphasize on single leg work and balance challenges. We can also do some grip strengthening again, and then we can plan on this being about 45 minutes. Saturday, nice long cardio or active recovery. It's a longer cardio session, maybe 60 to 90 minutes at an easy pace, such as walking, hiking, and light yoga. On Sunday, it can be rest and or mobility. I recommend mobility because no one ever does it and they need to. And that leads us to a weekly volume of 3 strength sessions at 45 to 60 minutes each, 2 to 3 cardio sessions, including 1 high intensity and 2 steady state, daily mobility work, 10 to 15 minutes every day, and then 1 to 2 rest days built in. And then in order to track your progress, like we talked about, every 8 to 12 weeks, you can take a look at your VO2 max and retest your longevity metrics, including your grip strength, your leg strength, and your balance. And these will all be tracked over time because your goal is steady improvement or maintenance once you get to the plateau. The goal is not perfection. Adjusting for your age and fitness level in your 30s to 40s, the idea should be to focus on building capacity. Push harder on strength and cardio and establish good habits. And in 50s and 60s, you reap the rewards of that. You focus on maintaining your capacity. You keep training hard, but you can prioritize recovery and injury prevention. And then in your 70s, it's about preserving function. You keep moving, you keep lifting, but you adjust your intensity as you need because you are 70 years old. But the principles don't change. Strength, cardio, mobility, and balance. Only the intensity is what's adjusted. So this isn't about being the fittest person in the gym. It's not about impressing anyone, at least not in the beginning, because by the time you hit 50, 60, and 70, all of a sudden when people look around the gym, they're going to start asking you why you're there and why you're able to do what you do. But you're not going to impress anybody for the first few decades. It's going to be when you're the old guy at the gym still repping things out and showing off balance and strength that people are going to start asking what you did. This is going to be something that your life shows that you did this. Your life is going to be the proof of your training. That's the mission, right? It's longevity, and it starts today. So here's what we can do this week to have an impact that's measurable. We can test our baselines like we talked about. You can do a VO2 max with a 12-minute Cooper test or a 1-minute walk test. Again, assuming you've been cleared by a medical professional to do these things. Grip strength, leg strength. You can do sit-to-stand test or get off the floor test. And balance, you can see if you can stand on a single leg for 30 seconds. Then you can write down your scores, and this is your baseline. You can identify your weakest area based on these tests and then adapt to work on it. For me, it's probably going to be my VO2 max, and I'm going to have to add more HIIT and cardio. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to prioritize that one thing in my weekly routine. I'm going to try and find a way to add 1 HIIT session per week. That's going to be my goal. But for you, it could be adding 10 minutes of grip training for 3 times a week for 10 minutes at a time. It could be adding 1 lower body strength session per week. But that one change over 4 weeks is what we're going to do, and then we're going to track our results and see where we're at. Me, of course, knowing the VO2 max is what I'm going to work on, I'm probably going to have to wait and check it in 8 weeks, but I might have some measurable difference in 4. And the bonus action is that you share that baseline, and you can post it in the comments below. And other people in the community can celebrate that progress with you and encourage you on. So, that is it for episode 4. The longevity mindset shift is about redefining success. It's not about how we compare to who we were when we were 22, and it is not about how we compare to the 22-year-olds in the gym today. It's about building a body that will serve us for the next 50 years. VO2 max, grip strength, and leg strength are all the metrics that matter, and we are going to track them, train them, and improve them. And next week, we're diving into a topic that every veteran deals with: lower back pain. We're going to go deep on assessment, treatment protocols, and exercises that actually work. If you're finding value in this podcast and these last few episodes, please leave a review on any of the places that you listen this to, and share this episode with a fellow veteran who needs to hear it. Show notes, test protocols, and the training templates are going to be available on Patreon. The things that I talked about earlier about the measurements of success, however, that will be in the description of the video for everybody to see it. But please give the Patreon a check out and consider joining. But that is it for me. Everybody stay mission ready, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay fit. And I will check you guys out in the next video.